As you can see here, we've got the new mega plows coming down the street. They're designed for the torrential vortex that's being created from the atmosphere. This is going to be the worst storm in recorded history. We're probably all gonna die.
5 minutes ago, I was just standing here. Now I'm covered in this.
So in order to get the children to school, because they always go to school in New England, they've had to bring out these sled dogs and take them down these perilous steps to the front of the school down there. So schools are still open and clinics are still open, even though it's the end of the world.
All right, here we are in the middle of town right now. As you can see, people are all leaving. There's no one here in town. People are running for their lives. They're all heading south to Florida, where it's a lot warmer and there's no snow. All right, now we're gonna cut to Amber. She's live in the field.
Haven't had a dog in the intro for quite a while, and also I figured it's about time to do that. I don't know.
It's like cheating for the likes.
It really is. Everyone must thumbs up now before even watching the content, even though the rest of this is swill. I guarantee it. We don't have very much time because I'm actually going to be on the show with Jay's 2 Cents and Barnacules tonight, so that's coming up live in just a minute. I'm announcing what's happening yesterday because we pre-shoot this and they shoot that live. So go back in time yesterday and watch that show. Great. I've given them a plug. Should we give a plug to anything else? Oh, by the way, I'm wearing the shirt on from epicpants.com. This is it right here. Yes, the orange beard. I don't know where we got the idea for this. This is a terrible idea.
This is a Squarespace episode too. So what?
Oh, is it?
No, the shirt's fine. It's a Squarespace episode.
Well, all right. Well, thanks to our sponsor, Squarespace, on this episode. Now, let's talk about RadioShack. They filed for bankruptcy and they sold half of their stores to, who was it, Sprint? So
they're in talks to sell half their stores to Sprint.
Well, yeah. So that's what's happening. Now let's talk just a little bit. Who do you think, Wendell, would benefit from owning the other half of those stores? I don't know.
I really think that Google ought to pick up the phone and call RadioShack and be like, wait, we'll buy them all. We'll buy all of your stores.
Like, not even, like, for what, $50 million, $100 million? How much do they want for all of them?
Yeah, well, some of the reports are that this deal's going to go down for $50 million, which, given RadioShack, I mean, is RadioShack worth that little? Apparently, the only thing keeping them on life support all this time has been mobile phone sales, and hence why I was thinking about having Google buy them.
So then Google will have a place to start getting crazy with all their home automation stuff. They want to be a mobile carrier. This would be a place for them to push their own mobile devices and service plans. And this would also be a place for them to push Chromecast, just so many different things. It could be like an Android superstore. I don't know. More
importantly, the thing that kills me with Google technology is that you can pick up a lot of Google technology like in Walmart. Walmart is like just the lowest common denominator, in America, and you can pick all the Chromebooks and Chromecasts, and no one in Walmart has any idea what the technology is. It may as well have been deposited by aliens, and there's an alien ship that comes by and it uses its anti-grav gun and it just drops a pallet in the middle of the store. That is, can you imagine, if RadioShack, what it used to be, you could actually go and talk to somebody that knew what they were doing and they would do stuff. So, imagine sort of the Apple Genius concept, but with Google. And so you could actually go to Google and it's like, this is how you can use your Android phone to do stuff. And we're going to explain to you the Gmail app that integrates all of your things. And we'll explain why that's a good idea, because if you're doing that on your own, you can't possibly figure out why that's a good idea.
Remember our last experience going to a RadioShack? We were hanging out with ESR, and we went into a RadioShack, and it was like 10 minutes before closing. We opened the door, and the guy says one sentence to us. He looks over, doesn't say, "May I help you? Can I help you guys find anything?" He just says, "Hey, we're closing in 7 minutes." That's the only thing he said to us, and then he just like walks away from us. It was like walking into an inconvenience store. So
just let us buy our capacitors and we'll be on our way. Thanks.
Yeah, they didn't have the. I don't even remember if they had the right capacitors or not. They didn't have the capacity to carry those capacitors.
I had to construct my own capacitors. It was bad. And then ESR's capacitors did not have the correct ESR, so that was fun.
Yeah, I was trying to wind up some coils, but they were whining a bit, and then anyway. So let's move over to Japan, shall we? Japan is going to build a hotel that's going to be run by robots. Look at these. These things are still somewhere in the uncanny valley. Those things are going to haunt your dreams and nightmares. I wonder if there's going to be like, you know, in-room service of robots. I don't even know what people would do with that. I bet everyone in the audience does, though. So anyway, these robots are going to be running the front desk. And then some of them are going to be doing some cleaning and that sort of thing. And then others will be like the bellhop that'll carry your luggage and that sort of thing. So they're not just going to be stationary, you know, robots that just move around. They're calling them actroids, or Actroid. That's a funny name. The Actroid Android. So these were developed by Osaka University, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting place to see. Now get this. They could charge more for the novelty. It's somewhere where it was right outside of what town was this outside of? I've forgotten already. Nagasaki. So they could charge more because of the novelty of going there and, you know, dealing with robots. But they are factoring into this the savings. The savings from not having real employees. So the rooms are only going to be about 40 euros per night, 7,000 yen. Interesting. You know what else is really creepy about this? They're building this in sort of an interesting theme park town that's supposed to be a stereotypical Dutch, you know, town. So not only that, so they got the stereotypical Dutch town. There's a hotel with all female robot staff. Okay, it's totally normal. That's Japan. Everything's normal.
I feel like I've seen this on Futurama or something. It's like all the robots have gone haywire, and you know they're going to stab me or something. I don't know.
Oh man, I want to see the. Oh god, this is creepy. I think they should literally have like, because robots, you know, they're not people. Is it an invasion of your privacy if a robot just walks in on you or whatever? I mean, if you order room service, since it's a robot and doesn't, you know, they're not people, so can they just like walk in while you're taking a shower?
The NSA doesn't think so. Yeah, that would be fun. You should, like, all the NSA spying, imagine robots doing that instead. It's like you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's a person standing over you, and it's like, oh, that's just the NSA robot. It's cool. And it's like, no, this is never cool. This is never cool.
Get your tinfoil hat. So this is a Dutch thing. So they're working with like the different governments in Europe. Bilderberg Group, there's a hot word for you guys. They're involved in this, and what they've done is they've created this very attractive area, and they've determined that the people who like Dutch villages and Japanese robots are the ones who are top-level executives in very prominent firms. So they're going to attract them there by putting all the stuff that they want in this one area. And then once they get there, they're going to use these robots to harvest data, because people will feel comfortable, because a robot, to a lot of people, is not a human being, and not, you know, they're going to let their guard down. So this is all a plot by the Bilderberg Group, Illuminati conspiracy of conspiracy birds that were haunting our show earlier. It's guaranteed, proven by that guy from Texas, whatever his name is, I forget. All right, should we move on? I don't forget. Alex Jones, that's who it is.
Oh yeah, Alex Jones. Yeah, the Bilderbergs.
Yeah. He's already on to all this. So all our information basically comes from Alex Jones, that freak. Anyway, let's talk about Anthem. The anthem of the show today is that 80 million people have been compromised, because Anthem, they like Blue Cross Blue Shield. Wow, I don't even know what that's from. Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can't even say blue.
This is a major healthcare provider here in America. They insure about a third of the country,
and they were totally compromised. So some expert high-level hacking stuff happened, and here's what data was lost. We're talking like people's addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, private data. It doesn't say anything about their credit card information, but if somebody has access to their social security number and all their private data like that, they could easily apply for credit cards. So this is going to be great for the credit card fraud industry.
Yes.
Yay.
Not only that, but bankruptcy court, the legislation here, is the preponderance of the evidence is if somebody has your social security number and they apply for a credit card, that was probably you, and so you have to prove that your identity was stolen. So literally a third of the country now is just identity theft heaven. Every piece of information that you would need to effectively steal someone's identity was in the treasure trove of what was stolen. The other thing is that I didn't realize that these healthcare companies maintained income data. So apparently in this database, it also has a chart of how much money you earn. And they say that's for health reasons, but I think that's so that they can abuse the poor. We probably should outlaw that. Because it's like, oh, you know, Bertha got cancer, but she's poor. Oh, we're just going to deny her because what's she going to do? She doesn't have any money. You know that happens.
Yeah, she'll get the shitty drugs that make her vomit. But you know what? If you have really good financial, if your financials look to be in order and you're comfortable or better, well then you're going to get the fancy new stuff. You know, it's wonderful.
Well, something about death panels. I remember someone saying something about death panels.
I don't even know. All right, you remember last week we talked about Comcast and they had named one of their customers Asshole Jones or whatever it was. I forgot what the last name was. Anyway, I can't even believe that they've given their customer service agents. Wow, somebody needs to change their freaking belts outside. That is squeaky. Anyway, I can't believe that Comcast has given their customer service agents the ability to change a customer's name. Like, why should they ever need to? I mean, I guess they could if the customer calls in and they're like, hey, you got an F where there should be a PH or something. So, but I don't know. At this point, they're going to have manager approval now because it's happened again. A customer called in. She was upset because her television just would not work. It kept cutting off and just, she wanted to come home and watch television. And her name is Mary, but they changed her name from Mary to Super Bitch. That's not even creative. Super Bitch. Why don't you change it to see you next Tuesday or something, so that at least it'll be a little bit vague and creative. But no, just flat out Super Bitch. That's actually a compliment in some parts of the country. That's like caped Avenger Super Bitch, but in other parts of the country it's an insult. So I guess in Chicago that's an insult, but in Florida it's kind of a compliment. That term is thrown around so much down there. I just got used to it. It's like, hey, yo, you're my bitch. And I was like, was that a good thing? Let me look this up in my English to Miami translator here. Anyway, so yeah, Chicago's not the part of the town that or not the town that should be used in. What the hell, Comcast?
There are quite a few reports of Comcast doing this. And meanwhile, it's like, oh, we're gonna allow this company to merge, even though it's basically completely dysfunctional as far as customer service goes and servicing people literally have no choice but to pay this company if they want to have any kind of communications. There is no other choice, and we're not, they're not being allowed to implode. I don't even understand.
It could be on a governmental level, like sort of a morbid curiosity of, hey, let's take the two worst things and cram them together and just see how shitty it is. It'll be so bad. Oh, I can't. It really is. It's morbid curiosity. Have you ever done that? You just wanted to see how bad something could get. You just stand back and watch the world burn. That's what's happened. That's exactly what's happened.
The tighter this new conglomerate squeezes, the more municipalities will squeeze through its fingers.
All right, let's go over to Alibaba and see what's going on in Asia. So in China, Alibaba has been conducting some drone test flights, delivering tea all around to different people. I want to go ahead and play this real quick because it's I want to answer her.
An opportunity here. I mean, could China effectively get ahead of us?
So she just asked if China could effectively get ahead of us. And let me just tell her something here on Bloomberg. Bloomberg should know this. A lot of the investment firms in New York City are encouraging everyone to invest in China, not the USA. It's really funny. I know some high-level investment people in secret places, and they've been encouraging all the big American businessmen to throw all their money into China. China is kind of beating the USA at the game of capitalism. So I think they're already slightly ahead in some areas, lady. I forgot her name. I'm just calling her lady. Not out of disrespect, just because I don't know her name and she is a lady. There you go, everyone in the comments. Berta, stay away.
The thing that amuses me about this is just last week, you know, Obama was like, oh, you know, a drone crashed in the White House, even though it was put there by a federal employee. And we really need some regulations here. And it's like, dude, have you not seen radio control helicopters? Radio control helicopters were invented in 1967, and they could do all of the stuff these new, you know, multi-rotor drones could do by 1985, certainly. You can go on YouTube and look at like the 1985 like helicopter championships. Those guys are doing crazy stuff with their helicopters, and those are up to like 1/3 scale. Those don't need a license. Those don't need anything. Why is this happening now? Why the fear mongering? Why?
This helicopter is huge. I just brought one of the videos up. My God, this thing is like, oh, that's a huge helicopter, but it's RC. Wow.
One of those would really hurt if it hit you, so probably a lot more than a quad rotor.
Yeah, because those freaking the blades, man. I mean, they're way. I mean, I guess if it's the quad rotor's blades are big enough and solid enough, they could hurt. But, whew, that thing is wild. But you know, quadcopters
blades are made out of plastics, so I mean they're replaceable. Yeah. Unlike a helicopter, where it's like a $500 thing if you crash it.
I better close this video before we get a takedown notice, just like we do all the time. All right, so what's next up on the list? I guess I'll just leave that with saying, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Alibaba's doing their thing. They're huge, and if people are willing to pay for our drone delivery, that's interesting. And it's also going to be interesting to see what sort of regulatory hurdles they have to jump in comparison to the regulatory hurdles that Amazon and other companies here in the USA are going to have to jump in order to make, 1 hour delivery a thing that you can click on with Amazon Primer. It's even more Prime than Prime. It's Amazon Optimus Prime. Optimized Prime. Yes, Amazon Optimized Prime. Damn it, I just gave...
It's more than meets the eye.
Oh, God. What's this here? Oh, yeah, quick mention, then we'll move on. Google, Amazon, and Microsoft have been paying Adblock Plus. I wanted to mention that because on Inbox, I said that Google, Microsoft, and Amazon were paying Adblock to make sure that their advertisements were allowed through the filter, as it were. Well, that's Adblock Plus that's being paid, not Adblock. So I don't know the difference. I got pissed off and started using AdGuard. And I do turn it on for the sites that I want to stay in business because that's how they make money. People were complaining on the forum the other day because we did enable ads on the website. And I mean, we were going without ads for months, like quite a long time. And I just was like, you know what, we got to turn on ads because should we tell them how much it costs to run the website? Should we tell them that or no?
It costs a lot of money. We do not quite break even.
Are they gonna? Someone's gonna file a transparency report just to know exactly how much. I just turned on the ads. These are big, and what's this big white box? Okay, Google. Let me refresh again. But yeah, it costs. I can say easily over $1,000 to run the website because we get about 2 million page views a month. So what you guys can do if you don't want to see ads, because these ads are here and they're going to be a thing, and we'll try to make them blend in more. And we've got Albert also trying to get some more premium ads from people he's working together with different companies. So you'll see like prettier ads on relevant things that are not Google ads. But anyway, if you guys want the ads to go away, we've given you a provision where you can help help us pay for the community website here for everybody. You just click on tech support, and then you can decide whether or not you want to, buy us a coffee or, buy us a beer. And one thing I do want to note, if you're someone who wants to, give a certain amount or whatever, you can go in here and change the quantity to like, 67 or whatever, 700. You can change the quantity. And
we do have a very few awesome people that have done that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just changed the quantity, and right now I'll be giving 2.51 million per month. So that's what I'm going to do here on the website, and I think you should too. There's a good ad, Star Wars Old Republic. Yeah, I don't know.
If you're a member of tech support, you don't get ads.
Yeah. So anyway, enough of that marketing business. But you guys have to understand.
And you get access to our game servers that everybody also has access to.
But you guys are helping pay for the game servers that we have going on. So yeah,
yes.
We've got a GoldenEye. I'm coughing right now. There's going to be a GoldenEye Source event, I think Saturday. So tomorrow, if you guys are watching it on the first day. So I'll be running a GoldenEye Source server, and we'll be playing with Kyle and Paul and some of those other guys. I think it's Saturday, but I'll double check. Anyway.
And we've had a Zynotic server running forever, I think, and a Mumble
Zynotic,
server. When you log in, you can see all the servers that are up in the sidebar.
I had to take the Zynotic server down because the download server for all the maps, I uploaded a whole bunch of Quake 2 and Quake 3 and Quake 1 maps, And I was like, yay! And it worked for a day, and now the download server is not working anymore, so no one can download the maps. I took the Xenonic server down, and as soon as I figure out what's wrong with the download server, it'll be back up online with a bunch of awesome Quake maps, Instagib, and it's kind of like the awesome compilation arena shooter at this point. I'm turning it into something amazing. So anyway, that's thanks to you guys. All right, let's talk about Ross Ulbricht. He's the quote-unquote, possibly, maybe, well, they say he is, but he's the Dread Pirate Roberts of the Silk Road. So it looks like...
He was convicted.
Yeah, it looks like he's in trouble. Convicted of drug charges. Millions of dollars worth of drug charges.
Now, there's another trial in another state for murder, so...
Murder?
But he has not yet been sentenced. Yeah, we don't know. Well, not murder, trying to hire murder. This is really an interesting case to follow. So the jury found him guilty, but the defense was not allowed to present a lot of things. So like one of the investigators, until a week before Ulbricht's arrest, one of the prosecutors was convinced that it was not Ulbricht, that it was actually the guy that ran Mount Gox. But the defense was not allowed to bring that up. And it's really interesting because the judge that did not allow that to be brought up cited a case in which the prosecution was not allowed to bring up that an investigator thought it was somebody else. And I think that that's a valid defense. And so the logic that was used in the case that the judge brought up, the judge in the Ulbricht case was citing case law, but the logic of that case is sort of turned on its ear. It's turned around 100% to mean the opposite thing. And so I think just based on that grounds alone, he's going to be granted an appeal. I could be wrong. I don't really know too much about it. I'm just sort of an armchair person. But the fact that the defense was not allowed to bring up the defense that, hey, even the prosecution thought it was somebody else. I mean, maybe now they think it's him, but up until now, they thought it was somebody else. For months, 6 months, a year before he was arrested, they thought that the Dread Pirate Roberts was somebody else, and he was known to the investigators. So I think it's really strange that the judge did not allow the defense to bring that up. So I think that's going to be grounds for an appeal. Yeah,
I still think it was the Gox guy, but just because I want it to be the Gox guy, it's
an incredible. We could write a novel about that because that's just so. It's like and if you really want to put on your tinfoil hat, Gox went insolvent at almost the exact same time that the FBI seized the Silk Road wallet.
Dun 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 dun. That is wild. Yeah, we could outline this out and make one hell of a movie. And we could take some artistic liberties as well, but it would be an interesting movie with some techno babble and all that,
For those of you that missed it, the Dread Pirate, so he was convicted of being the Dread Pirate Roberts, but his defense was literally, well, I only started out being the Dread Pirate Roberts. I actually gave that over to somebody else, and I was just the cabin boy. That was literally his defense. So.
I don't know. It makes sense. Oh, well. Let's move along here. Windows 10. Check this action out. Windows 10. So, there's now a new way to install Windows 10, and I can't believe Microsoft has not done this until now because it seems so beautiful and simple. You go into Windows Update and click Install, and you can upgrade to Windows 10. Right now, it's just a technical preview, as at this point. But very soon, if you have Windows 7 or Windows 8, you'll be able to go and do that. In order to do that, you do have to jump through one small hoop. You have to go to the Windows Technical Preview page and then download one thing, but it will appear in Windows Update, and it won't require you to install from a USB stick or from a DVD or anything like that. Much more streamlined and easy process. Makes sense. It seems like they could have done this again. Before.
They could have done this with Windows 98. It's like, 98 OEM SR2? Yeah, no.
I don't know. Do you think they would have had the technology back then to do this kind of thing? Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. This has nothing to do with technology, but it's a sad state of affairs that the world is in, that grown adults have to go to preschool again. So there's a couple here in New York, and they've decided that adults should relive their childhood and go to preschool. I think it's just that people have lost touch with basic arithmetic, maybe. And now they need to go back and do 2 plus 2 and all that sort of thing. Anyway, for a fee, as long as you're over 18, you can go back and take a month-long course that is preschool. We're talking finger painting, crawling around on the floor, and pooping your pants and that sort of thing. So, whatever you're into. And I believe these two are the perfect. Yeah, let's look at this here. This is it's I guess I think it's kind of stupid, but I want to know from you guys in the audience, would you go back and go through preschool again? Do you think that there would be something deep and meaningful that you could glean from it? Or do you think maybe reading a book would work? I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot, maybe I'm wrong, and the thing that, you know, a 30-something-year-old needs when they're stressed out working on Wall Street is to go roll around on the floor and finger paint. Let me know. All right, let's quickly check out our sponsor. This time we're going to talk about Squarespace. Now, we use them for our store because it's all about the content. It puts the content forward, and that's what really matters here, the content. We're trying to create our identity on the internet, and they've made it very easy for us. If we want to go ahead and add a color, add a size, it's, you know, just add different options. It's just super easy. Integrates with ShipStation in the back end. Now, we're now on Squarespace 7, and the same philosophy is applied here. They want the tools to kind of get out of the way so that you can really create the site that you want. They've streamlined everything and made it just very easy to create sites on the fly. And above and beyond that, they've improved their mobile app so that you can just use Android or iOS, and there you go. Go ahead, edit, create, check your analytics, add images, you know, blog, whatever. You can pretty much create your entire site from your mobile device if you wanted to. If you're a developer, you're going to have Git access, so you can get in there and mess with everything. It's not just a website full of flashy templates that, you know, lock you into a certain thing. You can get in there and do everything if you want to, but if you want to go fast and just get things done, you can do that as well. Some of you guys out there need some professional images. Well, now a couple of clicks will get you a Getty image. Cover pages is also new, and the idea here is sometimes you only need one page. So there it is. There's your one-page ID. Very simple and clean. There's now integration with Google Apps for email, docs, spreadsheets, you know, everything. So check that out. I mentioned that they were listening to the audience for feedback and template ideas. They've also partnered with some of the quote-unquote world's most inspiring people. And check this out. This is Alex Honnold. He's one of the best free solo climbers in the world. He needs a nice, clean, and simple website. But here he is free soloing up the side of the granite at Yosemite. Very, very cool to watch. I mean, even the behind the scenes is kind of unbelievable on this. So I think it's cool that they're doing stuff like this. But you guys can go down and get the template that they you know, designed with him in mind, and then customize it to your heart's content. Someone else that they partner with is St. Luca. He does pop. I'm not familiar with his music, but you guys could check out that template as well. So there's a lot of new templates and a lot of new things that you guys can do with Squarespace. Keeps growing, keeps getting better, keeps getting more robust, and yet at the same time, it's not getting clunky and it's not getting in the way. It's all about staying out of the way so your content is forward. It's all about staying away so that the user experience on the back end is streamlined. So that's Squarespace. Now back to the regularly scheduled tech. All right, next up. Well, I guess this was for later in the show, but should we talk about the guy, the John, what's his name? John Goodenough right now? Let's save it for later. Yeah, all right, let's talk about it now. Yeah, John, let's just talk about John Goodenough. So this dude here, he's 92 years old, John Goodenough. Have you heard of John Goodenough? He invented the lithium-ion battery, which powers everything on the planet, including Tesla cars, Apple iPhones, probably the Android phone that's in your pocket, because our audience should be using it, right? It's everywhere. He invented that, and he apparently may be onto something that could reduce, or not reduce, but improve the effectiveness, like a new type of battery that could be 60% better. He won't talk about what it is, but a lot of people have been trying to use solid lithium, and that hasn't really worked out all that well because people keep burning down their laboratories, you know? But he's, like, everyone keeps saying, yeah, if there's a breakthrough, it's going to be way in left field. And this guy is way outside of the box, according to everyone who knows him. Here's his laugh.
I mean, I'm only 92. I've got time to go.
Yep. So there you heard it. He's only 92 years old, and he's got time to go. And he really wants to, you know, solve this problem and help the world before he leaves, because he sees the price of oil, he sees everything, the world is a mess, and he wants to help us get a more efficient battery to make electric cars more practical and to make a lot of our devices last a lot longer. So very, very interesting man. This is an extremely long article here. It goes through his upbringing. It goes through the history of batteries being used in cars and everywhere else, from, you know, all the way back in the 1800s. It's a crazy detailed article that tells a story. So it's pretty interesting, and you guys should maybe take a look at it. All right, next up here, let's get down to some ISP business. The FCC has reclassified or will be reclassifying the internet as a public utility under Title II. Apparently, Verizon and AT&T are already ready to sue. And you know what's really funny about all this? The reason that we got here in the first place is because Verizon couldn't leave well enough alone. You know, the Tom Wheeler, he's from this industry.
BitTorrent.
Yeah. What's that?
We're going to block BitTorrent. There's nothing you can do, so we'll reclassify you. We'll sue.
I think the reason we're here in the first place, right? So is all the ISPs were just kind of like, okay, we've got a few rules, but you know what? We're still able to screw the American people enough. We're happy. But Verizon's like, no, we want to screw them harder. We want to screw them with this three-pronged thing. We want it to hurt. And the FCC's like, oh God, people are dying and Verizon's eating their babies, and okay, I guess we better do something. So the FCC came in and like, hey, stop eating babies. And Verizon's like, no, we're going to keep eating babies, and you can't stop us. And they're like, well, all right, well, we're going to make you stop. And then Verizon's like, oh yeah, you know what? We're going to sue you. And they went to court, and the judge is like, well, yeah, the FCC, you guys don't really have the authority to tell them to stop eating babies unless you were Title II, and they're not Title II, so I guess I'm going to have to let them keep eating babies, even though it's heinous. So Verizon's been eating babies like crazy. Is that pretty much accurate?
That's pretty accurate, but there were two court cases, one with Comcast and one with Verizon. Both said the same thing, and in both cases, the judge said, but, FCC, you have the power to reclassify these ISPs as Title II. And it turns out that this is less true with Comcast. This is more true with Verizon. That Verizon has already been using Title II funds and Title II grants and Title II things that are available to telecommunications companies under Title II to defray costs. So Verizon has already been enjoying those taxpayer benefits that the taxpayer has paid for. So I think that if they sue, they're going to have a real hard time. Not only that, but the Supreme Court has said, hey, FCC, you're totally within the bounds of your power to do this. And so I think a lower court's going to look at that and be like, well, no, I mean, the Supreme Court said the FCC could do this. And so I would be real surprised if those lawsuits get any traction. The most they could do is delay until those companies could buy up new politicians that would change the law. So that's all the sue maneuvering would be for, is to buy some time where they can spend a whole bunch of money on politicians to change the law.
Now, we've been saying that this is a really good idea for a long time, and that's mainly because, sadly, we trust the government more than we trust these insane, out-of-control companies. Normally, I would be like kind of weary of any sort of government intervention and regulation, but these companies are, like I said,
dilemma.
They're eating babies. So the weird thing here is that, Tom Wheeler, he is from this industry. He used to be a lobbyist for all these companies, and now he's kind of turned against them. So has he fully turned against them? I mean, I don't want to just be like, yeah, I'm skeptical as well. This is what I wanted. I wanted I wanted to be able to say like, hey, yay, we live in a place where the little guy has a better chance, and I think that's going to happen now. There's still going to be a lot of regulations in place even for them, but the playing fields will be a bit more level. But there are still some ways, according to these rules, that ISPs and cable providers and all that sort of thing can mess with things, and that's through they can still do they can't do throttling anymore, but they can do data bandwidth caps, and then they can do I forgot what the term is, but they can do the thing where they allow certain things to not count against your cap. There's like zero bandwidth, or I don't know, but yeah, they can still do the things that allow. If they have their own streaming service, they can be like, well, listen, if you use our streaming service instead of Netflix, it does not count against your 50 gigabyte data bandwidth cap. So the caps are still there, and until those are gone, it's going to be a bit rough. Also, I don't see any provisions made to allow third parties to use the last mile infrastructure. It looks like they're going to have access to a lot of the poles and that sort of thing, and a lot of the hubs, but they may end up having to run their own last mile infrastructure. So there are still...
That's probably okay.
There are still some rules to make things easier on them, so it's not incredibly difficult. It is going to change a lot. The fast lanes look like those are not going to be allowed. But yeah, it's just it's kind of weird that they forced him to turn almost against them, but not quite. What is going on downtown? There's like a truck. Everything. I don't know. Anyway.
It took a long time for him to come around, so I'm really sort of skeptical that he's genuinely had a change of heart. But in some of the material that he published, he talks about his experience with AOL and how AOL was able to take off as a company because anybody could use their phone lines to dial into AOL. And in that case, the infrastructure for the phones was separate from the internet services. And that is something that we have talked about from day one is, you know, this really could be and should be a separate thing because then we would have true competition. You know, the last mile infrastructure, it doesn't make sense for 5 different companies to run 5 different fiber cables to your house when all 5 companies can quite happily share that fiber optic cable. You can get, I mean, 10 gigabit is coming into commodity. We're going to have some 10 gigabit enterprise videos coming up soon where I get to play with 10 gigabit Ethernet, and it's just amazing and the most awesome thing ever. But, you know, 10 gigabits coming in vogue, and 5 companies, you know, if you wanted to have, you know, just 10 gigabit, you know, internet access to your house would just be completely insane. Like, I don't even know. But his experience with AOL is like, well, you know, wait a minute, we could have a whole bunch of competition and we could do all this. And I think that maybe, you know, John Oliver's thing got to him where he's like, oh, we've got a dingo watching that. And he's like, oh, I saw that. And that probably is true.
Yep. Dingo watching the baby that Verizon's eating. That's the thing that John Oliver left out. Yeah. We have to remember here, guys, there is baby eating involved. And, and that sort of stuff.
The other thing that we didn't mention explicitly is these rules will now also apply to mobile as well. And so traffic discrimination on mobile is not allowed. I really, really hope somebody sues the bejesus out of Comcast as soon as this happens because Comcast is still jacking with Tor traffic, and that is bad.
The last thing that, I guess the last way that the companies can get away with doing some shady stuff is through sponsored data, and that'll also apply to like mobile as well, but it essentially allows companies to sponsor the bandwidth that they're using to make sure that it gets to the customer. So that can be a bit shady. It seems like a fast lane, but it's not exactly a fast lane because it's called sponsored data.
They're not allowed to prioritize.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Slightly different. It's different in name, and but it's going to end up being the same type of thing where, you know, you allow the big guys to pay for the connections there that the little guys can't pay for. So
here's sort of the dark side of that, though, is that Comcast is already saying that, oh, well, no, we did not prioritize Netflix. We just allowed the traffic to degrade, and that's a big difference. And so this really doesn't do anything to protect companies like Netflix from that sort of behavior by companies like Verizon and Comcast. There's not really anything here, even though there's no fast lane option. Comcast and Verizon may be able to do enough hand-wavy stuff to convince a jury that, oh, well, we didn't really, you know, we didn't do a fast lane. We didn't do any paid prioritization. We just let their traffic go to hell. So I don't know how that would work out.
You know, I think a good way to look at this after we've said all that stuff, we've kind of thrown out some possible consequences and some possible scenarios. At the end of the day, Verizon and Comcast are furious and they're ready to sue, so it's probably going to be good. I think the overall outcome might be good, but we just got to watch them because they are inherently evil companies. So even when things change and the tide changes, they're still going to try to. It's not like they're just going to fold and be like, oh well, guess we better play by the rules now. No, they're not going to do that. So we got to keep an eye on these bastards. All right, let's move on and talk about some Snowden stuff. We've got a quick article from Canada. Canada's new anti-terror bill. I believe we've mentioned a few things about it. It's going to be scary, but I guess I'll just mention this in passing, then we'll keep going. But there is quite a bit of fear-mongering going on up there, and Snowden has warned, I believe he was speaking at students at a Toronto private school via video link, and he told them to be very leery of all this anti-terror stuff. I think it's kind of funny. He mentioned that you're more likely to slip in your bathtub and die in Canada than you are to be attacked by a terrorist. So they're using these things to... they're using these things to erode freedoms up there, and it's sad to see that happening in Canada as well. Why Canada? Come on, you guys are supposed to be like the smarter upstairs neighbor.
It's almost like in order to avoid splinters, we're going to have to do a full body latex suit every morning. You've got to wear a full body latex suit every day, all day, because you might get a splinter. Maybe it's like, but I'm not around unfinished wood. It doesn't matter. Get your full body latex suit.
You know what I want to do right now? I've been dying to do this. Let's look at this Samsung privacy policy for their smart TVs. And we mentioned that this was going to happen a long time ago. We even made a special video just for these smart TVs. But
privacy
in here,
had quotation marks around it if you didn't hear them.
So here, I'm just going to read this because it's hilarious. So if you enable voice recognition, you can interact with your smart TV, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But where is it? Please be aware that if your spoken words include personal or other sensitive information, that information will be among the data captured and transmitted to a third party through use of voice recognition. So, if you get one of these TVs, you are no longer allowed to say anything that you want to keep personal out loud anymore. It's listening. It will send these things to third parties. If your drunk neighbors come over, or if your drunk friend comes over, or if you get drunk and take a phone call while you're watching television and give out your social security information, your income information, and your sexual preferences, hey, that's going straight to a third party so they can advertise to you and possibly do other things. Awesome.
This is just amazing. It's like, it includes but not limited to your IP address, information stored in cookies and similar technology, and information that identifies your hardware or software configuration, browser information, and the pages you request. In other words, we're just going to watch everything that you do, and there's nothing you can do because this is the norm.
Get used to it, y'all. Speaking of what else y'all got to get used to, over in Sweden, why is that voice happening right now? It's going to stop. So over in Sweden, they've started chipping their employees at this new complex called the Epicenter. So they're using high-tech microchips, and they're embedding them into your hand. Mark of the Beast 666 Illuminati conspiracy. That's the comments right now. And Alex Jones is going to get on this. Documentary, 7 million hits. We're down here in Tennessee looking at a pyramid. It's full of alien technology. Alex Jones conspiracy theories. Sorry, I love that stuff on YouTube. It is hilarious. It's like the best comedy hour ever. Anyway, so they're implanting them into their hands, and here's what you're going to be using your microchip for. You're going to use it to just wave it, and the door will unlock. You'll be able to go up to the printer and scan your hand, and then things will print for you, and you'll be able to use it to buy your lunch, and who knows what else. So this is sort of the first major thing we've heard. There's been like stuff like this has been in development for a long time, but we haven't seen too many people take advantage of it and use it. I'm wondering if this is like the first step towards this being more of a norm in society. And I guess there might be some security implications, but this could it be safer than? Could this be different and safer than like one of those fob cards you carry in your wallet and have to go up and scan? Is it really that different? A lot of people are freaking out, but the technology is not that different than one of those cards. The weird thing is that it is inside your skin, living in your body. But I don't know. I don't really have much of a feeling about this.
I would much rather be able to handle, the next time I get mugged in New York City, I would much rather be able to hand the assailant my smart card rather than them go digging in my hand for whatever it is they wanted.
Well, yeah, but would they? I mean, I guess if we get to a point where the technology is everywhere and people know that there's something embedded in your hand, are people just going to run around with little, razor-edged scoopers where they can just scoop out your stuff and run? They're just like, guy, punched me in the face, grabbed my hand, and scooped out my chip and ran. Damn it! I mean,
if you guys have ever had money stolen from a debit card, and you know how hard it is to convince the bank, it's like, no, really, I did not put in my PIN. This is the thing, and the bank is like, somebody put in the PIN. We don't know if we're going to give you a refund for this. It's going to be that same conversation, but it's like, but sir, your chip was used. But they cut off my hand. I'm sorry, sir. Someone used your chip. It must have been you.
I don't know if we'll get to that point or not. I'm sure that there's got to be some sort of technology where it knows that it's cut off from the natural currents that are in your body, and as soon as it gets cut off, it should deactivate or self-destruct. Then we'll have a whole thing where things are deactivating and self-destructing inside your hand, and you're like, damn, I just third chip this month. Oh, man, I must not have enough current going through my body. Something like that.
That would be awesome. That'd be like Crypto Locker 20.0. It causes your RFID thing to explode.
People will be sending each other like funny links. You click on this link and your RFID explodes, and you're like, "Damn it! No, you got me again, Steven." That's what's going to happen right there. What's next on the list? This monitor thing. Oh, the Raspberry Pi. Yes, the new Raspberry Pi 2 is out. This thing is powerful and it is loaded with options. 900 megahertz quad core, 1 gigabyte of RAM. Look at all those USB ports, 4 USB ports. And it's going to run Linux, of course, because we all love that, these things are little Linux machines that can do all kinds of... Wait. Windows 10? This thing's going to run Windows 10? Well then,
it apparently can run Windows 10.
This could be interesting because it could, make more people adopt the Raspberry Pi. Some people are freaking out because they're saying it's going to drive people to the Raspberry Pi, but it's not going to drive people to Linux, which was a great thing about the Raspberry Pi. People would go to it and they would start to learn Linux a little bit. But I mean, I don't know. Do people?
So
I don't know. What do you think?
Windows 10 is an option. Now, people can still run Linux on the Raspberry Pi 2, and it was built for it. So the Raspberry Pi 2 is really awesome, quad-core, gig of RAM, all sorts of fun, we all know about that. But apparently this is enough to run the ARM version of Windows 10. But at the same time, Microsoft had discontinued production of the Surface 2, which was their Windows for ARM device. And they've also announced that Windows 10 is not going to be available for the Surface RT, which was an ARM device that had 2 gigabytes of RAM. But apparently Windows 10 will run just fine on the Raspberry Pi 2, which has a gigabyte of RAM and is a quad core. I guess that's sort of weird. I don't know what to make about that. But Windows, supposedly, they're still going to have Windows for RT, or Windows for ARM, Windows RT. Just to make things simple, I'm just going to call it Windows RT, but what I mean is Windows 10 for ARM. And they're going to have that so they can run phones and embedded systems and things like that. So that's good that they're doing that. They're going to make Windows 10 completely free for the Raspberry Pi 2. So I think that they're hoping to capture the developing world market and those sort of markets with Windows, because the Raspberry Pi took off in developing countries, because it's like, hey, just plug it into a television or a monitor and you're good to go. You've got a reasonable computation device. The Raspberry Pi 2 is much more reasonable, so it'll be, and it's still $35. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They're of course sold out everywhere. I'd like to get one. I was going to pay Adafruit, a $10 markup, but they were gone immediately. So, oh well.
I've got a prediction on this. I'm betting that about 10 to 15% of the people who buy one of these are actually going to use Windows 10. I think they're going to find that the performance is degraded so much that it's not even worth it, and the amount of things that you can do with Linux, I think, far exceeds the amount of things that you can do with Windows 10 for ARM. Like, far exceeds. So I don't think many people are going to be using Windows 10 on this thing. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I did the SunSpider JavaScript benchmark. This is with a Surface RT running Windows 8.1, and I used the same hardware with Android. It was Android 4.4, so the exact same hardware, processor, clock speed, the whole 9 yards. And the Internet Explorer running JavaScript, the SunSpider, I think it was SunSpider benchmark, was about 47% as fast as JavaScript in Chrome under Android. And that's, and that's Java. It's running in Java. I mean, because Android. But yeah, the Chrome on the Android was that much faster. That's crazy. That is insane. Internet Explorer should have been, 100% as fast in an ideal world as Chrome on Android on the same hardware. At least, 75, 80%, because I'll give you that there's a little bit more overhead with Windows. But yeah, 47%. That's crazy. That's terrible.
We got a whole slew of extreme tech articles. I was going crazy reading a bunch of those this week. But basically, this can be found just about anywhere. ARM has a new processor coming out probably in 12 to 18 months. It's the A72, and just look at the performance. They've moved from 20 nanometer as far as the manufacturing process down to 16 nanometer, and quite a nice performance boost. They've also got some graphics cards coming out, and I mean, I can go through all this stuff. Don't want to go too much longer and all that, but the bottom line here is that 12 to 18 months, it's going to pretty much double in speed and be extremely nice. So that's what's going on with the the ARM stuff. Unless you have any bits that I missed that you think the audience should know about.
They should have built that into the new Raspberry Pi 2. That's fine.
Yeah,
the new
maybe Raspberry Pi 3 in about a year. Yeah, about a year, I'd say. Also, Silicene. So graphene, everyone, that's been the buzz. It's, you know, a 2D material, meaning that it's one atom thick and it's got all these crazy properties that make it great for computing, but it's been pretty hard to manufacture on a mass scale. So now they're looking at other options that are very similar as well, like Silicene. That's the new thing that they've been developing, but I don't even know why this is a thing or an article right now, because oxygen dilemma degrades within like 20 minutes. The stuff starts to degrade. So yeah, you can make it, and you can make it work, and it does pretty cool things. And it's also closer in relation to silicon, so it could possibly work with some of today's current technologies. But they've got to figure that out. It degrades like that. It's just you make it, and then it starts working. You're like, hey, that really worked, and like, oh, well, it's not so good anymore. So
hopefully they can stabilize it. Stupid entropy.
Yeah, that'd be nice. New graphene displays as well. How about some new tiny LEDs that are bendable, movable, curvable? You can do so much with graphene, but still, again, they're going to need to figure out better ways to mass produce it. And they've got some breakthroughs out there that have happened that we've covered in the past. Just everyone keeps talking about it. I want to see a device that actually uses it. But apparently these will be able to make 1080p OLED displays, or even 4K displays that are bendable, tiny displays using graphene. Look at that graphene lattice right there. 2D structures are the future.
Displays.
Yeah.
It's like you just paint it on a wall. It's like, look, it's 100 inches. LEDs.
All right, let's get out of here and go to outer space, shall we, for just a little bit. So NASA may actually be going to Europa. Not anytime soon, but right now they've got some money set aside to do some research into feasibility and possibly getting on Europa. The problem with getting there, right now they've got like $100 million earmarked for going to Europa, and then they're asking for another $30 million so they can do some preliminary studies and that sort of thing. But the problem once they get there, according to the studies they've already done, it looks like the ice is around 100 kilometers or more thick. That's 62 miles thick. So they'd have to get there and figure out how to drill down through 100 kilometers worth of ice, and they don't really have the technology to do that just yet. Maybe some laser technology would make that happen. I think lasers could probably do that over a period of time. The article here says that there's no technology that can do that pretty much, but I think lasers could do it. Look at all those cracks in the surface of Europa. Europa is an interesting place. And you know what else is a very interesting place? That it's so sad that they haven't, people haven't done more studies with it, and everyone always goes past Uranus. Everyone just goes right past Uranus. But I'm not joking. That's the problem, is that whenever you say Uranus, everyone snickers. So I wish they would study Uranus. see what happens whenever I say I wish they would study Uranus? There are diamonds in Uranus.
There are already, 50 YouTube videos that have been created from just that little skit.
Me saying there are diamonds in Uranus, or the whole thing right there?
The whole thing.
It does. It rains diamonds on Uranus. That sounds like a rap song. Or an R&B. It'd be an R&B, yeah. A nice one of those R&B songs where they're trying to be romantic, but their vocabulary isn't so hot, so they just say things like "There's diamonds in Uranus," and that's romantic in some places. That's romantic if you haven't graduated college. All right, let's move right along here. Now the moon. So the moon may be a place that we can get to. I didn't even put this in there, but they're actually going to be doing some talks about the moon elevator thing. That's going to be coming up later in the year, and it'll be curious to see how those talks go. But right now, Bigelow Aerospace is a private aerospace company, and it looks like the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has said, yeah, you guys can start doing some studies and talks about possibly building colonies on the moon and maybe mining on the moon and all that sort of thing. The first thing that struck me as being odd about this is the FAA. The FAA is now in charge of the moon? I mean, I guess so, but that's just interesting. I don't know. I thought that would be more like NASA or somebody, or I don't know. But the FAA now has the say of what goes on the moon.
It's the broad definition of aviation. By aviation, space is included in that. That's cool.
I guess so, yeah. We need the Federation of Planets or something. So anyway, here's what they want to do. They want to go up there and do this sort of thing. I don't even know what they're going to do up there. Mining seems to be the thing. I mean, a lot of people have said, hey, let's go mine asteroids. And they're like, let's just go mine the moon. It's right friggin' there. I can throw a rock and hit it. right? You could throw a rock and hit it, couldn't you? Maybe. I don't know. You'd have to have a rock.
We totally could. We totally could and should colonize the moon. There's no reason that we shouldn't. The only thing that's maybe problematic about the moon is that all the dust, the moon dust, is super abrasive. So it's really hard on anything that moves.
What about the radiation from solar flares and that sort of thing? There's not as much of an atmosphere to protect. I guess you'd have to have like a warning, some sort of a warning system to like get, you know, into the lead chamber or something like that. Or what would it be that would stop the radiation? I don't know. Get back in the
underground
spaceship.
lava tubes. So there are underground lava tubes where magma has cooled and created, you know, hemispherical domes that are underground. Those will be perfect for colonization because we can drill a relatively shallow hole in the top of the dome and then colonize inside the dome. And by and large, they should be sealed so we can pressurize them with air. And so we don't even have to really construct the habitat. We just have to keep the dust out. So it's going to be a lot of plastic.
I'd be curious to go up there and hang out a little bit. I just don't think there's enough variety in, as far as like colors and that sort of thing goes for me to want to live there. But hey, it's really freaking interesting. All right, what's next on the list? We're going to talk about some gaming, shall we? Get into some gaming.
Games.
Yay. Did you watch the video yet for Underworld Ascendant? It's
No,
let me go ahead and
developed
play here.
was
Let me
Ultima.
mute this. So Ultima Underworld, right? Because you guys can see it on the screen now. And if you're an old school gamer and you've played Ultima Underworld, you already know what's going on. It is a game that allowed you to creatively solve, you know, puzzles, and it was sort of an open game, even though you're, you know, pretty much always in the underworld. But it was a 3D RPG that came out, God, like at the beginning of time. It's one of the oldest 3D RPGs, possibly the oldest 3D RPG ever, maybe, possibly, and maybe not. Someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong. But this game was the precursor to the Elder Scrolls games. This game is pretty much where, you know, like Skyrim came from, and the older Elder Scrolls games like Arena and Daggerfall, and then games like System Shock. These guys, it's Looking Glass Studios. They worked on Thief, so they know a thing or two about giving you tons of options, and that's why I've backed this project here. I'm really looking forward to a more modern game like this that gives you creative ways to solve problems. So they've created a gameplay system. Let me just scroll down here and get to it. They've created a gameplay system called the Improvisation Engine. And for instance, what that allows you to do here is, okay, you've got a moat you need to cross. Well, you could, if you're an idiot, you can jump into the moat and then you're eaten by the lurker, right? But if you're smart, maybe you'll throw a rotworm in, and then the lurker will attack the rotworm and you can swim by, or you can enchant a giant spider to carry you over top of the cave and then get you across. So every scenario, like if you've played Deus Ex, you know what we're talking about here. Every scenario that you come across, there will be multiple ways to solve for multiple different gameplay styles. So these guys are really the pioneers in that sort of gameplay, and it's really awesome to see that they are creating a new game. And it's all going to be Underworld, but the Underworld's not going to be all like caves. So there are some big cities, there's some giant mushroom glowing forests and that sort of thing. So this is an RPG that I am going to be really looking forward to. And these guys are in mass, so maybe we should go by and crash their studios here in mass and be like, hey man, what's up? How's things going on the game? That would be awesome.
It looks actually pretty cool, like how far along they are. I like that they're as far along as they are and are now asking for money, as opposed to, we've got this idea, and yeah, you guys should fund it. And it's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, they definitely already have a 3D playable prototype with some decent graphics, and I mean these graphics are not like the most riveting thing ever. I don't think you play this game specifically for the beautiful visuals, but you play it for the actual gameplay. As you know, there's still some visuals there, but not quite on par with like modded Skyrim or any of the new RPGs like Dragon Age and all that sort of thing. Anyway, that's pretty much everything. We got Verizon. What's this here? Oh. Well, you know what? I didn't put this in the notes, but I'll mention this real quick. The game Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy came out years and years and years ago. It's a pretty interesting sort of... It's not exactly a click adventure. It's an adventure game with quick time scenes, so you're familiar with quick time scenes. Anyway, the story is very riveting. It's as good as most strange thriller, sci-fi-ish, psychological movies. It's pretty good. Anyway, they're making a new... Not exactly a new version. They're making a version that's remastered, but... I don't know. It looks, the remaster version looks still. It still looks shitty. Okay, the The remaster version's barely an upgrade. They didn't even upgrade the polygon count. It looks like they just put better textures on top of the existing meshes, but whatever. It's a reason for people to play it again. But here's what I want to talk about. They're making this for Linux as well. So if you're looking for a compelling story to play, it's very linear. It's sort of like the opposite of what we just talked about. And the fighting is quick time scenes, you know, where you have to press left or whatever. I think it's kind of like Shenmue and Heavy Rain and games like that. So if you're into those kind of games, take a look at it. I've made my recommendation. So yeah, I just saw that on Google Plus when you called, because the only person that posts on Google Plus is like Nixie Pixel, and she posted a link to that. Like, I log into my wall and it's like Agent Beard and her, like the only two people who post anything. No one else uses the service. It's kind of funny. So I was like, hey, this is cool. I should mention it. Yeah, it's weird. All right, so that's pretty much the end of the show. And what do you know? I've got 13 minutes to go get myself some food before we do the show with Barnacules and Jay. And let me know what you guys thought of that, since you guys already saw that show, because it's live in a few minutes. Yeah. Let me thought,
sorry, this show's nothing but swill.
I've got this nice thing sitting on the desk right now. They paid us $4,000 for me to set this here. Actually, it was on the desk before, because we're getting ready to make a new build video. This is going to be Pistol's new system, hence the orange.
Is that the communicating? I can't see it. What is it? Is it the Carl Sagan book? I've got the Carl Sagan book.
This one here it is. See that beautiful case right there? It is lovely, and it is quiet. It is so silent. So we're getting ready to put a system in there. So, and when I say system, I mean like a subwoofer.
Communicating with extraterrestrials book. Thanks.
All right, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks to all the tech support members. Thanks to Squarespace. Thanks to everybody else who needs to be thanked. And if you guys have ideas for t-shirts, let us know, because we have really awesome designs of the month. We have some very cool lines of t-shirts coming soon, like some nerdy Linux one-liners. If you guys have nerdy Linux one-liners, send them over to us. Put them in the forum. Maybe we'll use them. Any kind of nerdy one-liners. We're going to do a whole line of one-liners. Maybe there'll be so many shirts. It'll be 2 lines of one-liners. So it'll be 2 lines. Never mind. 2-liners? 2-liners will work too if you have 2-liners. But we're only going to do 1 line of 2-liners, so only 2 or 3 one-liner or 2-liner shirts, because we only want 1 line of 2-liners. What the hell did I just say? I'll see you guys later. 1 line of 2-liners, but 2 lines of one-liners.